Greetings and welcome to episode 6 of XEP's Creator Talk, exclusive to Tier 2 and 3 patrons of the Xbox Expansion Pass. Today, I'm joined by one of the coolest personalities on YouTube and socials, creator of a YouTube channel that boasts nearly 60,000 subscribers, built around an audience of anime, gaming, and laughs. Mr. NeoGameSpark, how are you, my friend?
My man, my brother Luke. First things first, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It is my honor and privilege to chop it up with you. And I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm grateful you came on. I'm excited to talk. Creator Talk is one of my favorite things because I just get to hang out with good people, which is one of my favorite aspects of content creation. We're fresh off a bunch of showcases, the E3 Summer Game Fest season. I want to talk about that stuff, but first, it is imperative that you talk to me a little bit about your content creation. Tell me about the channel that you have built, because goodness knows, man, success it is rightfully coming your way.
Yeah, of course. It's always so funny whenever you do these sort of discussions. It never gets easier talking about yourself. I don't know how it is for you, but it just feels so weird. So I
Mhm.
always try to wrap it up as quick as possible, but I'm gonna do my best to give you a little bit of a rundown. So
Okay.
I actually started content creation before it was called content creation. My very first time uploading on YouTube was back in the dark ages, man. I'm talking 2008, which for
Mhm.
some of your audience who may or may not have been around at the time, that was back in the days where YouTube was 4:3 aspect ratios. Everything was uploaded in 240p, and if you were lucky, you could find a workaround to get it to run in high quality. There was no
Mhm.
HD, no 4K, no 60 FPS, none of that stuff. And YouTube, it honestly, I stumbled into it by mistake because I was bored one summer. I was just like having fun, just recording things because my dad had a camera, and I was just showing off like my PSP and my DS collection. And at the time, just looking back on it, it's kind of weird. Like, why am I recording these random videos in my collection and no one's seeing it? But then I found YouTube in like 2005, 2006. My cousin actually introduced it to me because that was where I'm sure you're familiar with this back in the day, like Newgrounds, right? When you
Yeah.
all those videos, if you didn't go to the site to watch them, what people would do is they would take that content and upload it onto YouTube. And so my
Mhm.
cousin emailed me a link because that's what we had to do back in the day. There was
Wow.
no Facebook, none of that. So he emailed me the link to this site called YouTube. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And, YouTube broadcast yourself. So I thought, all right, cool. Let me just upload these random videos. Like I remember one of my first ones was I had bought like a Yu-Gi-Oh starter tin, which came with like 5 packs of cards. And I was
Mhm.
just unboxing that, just like random things here and there. Again, thought nothing of it until like 2008, where I just started uploading these random videos of me talking about anime,
Mhm.
video games, Kingdom Hearts, Naruto, things like that. And sure enough, I found like an audience of like really amazing people. And we was all just, can I curse on this show?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we was all
Mhm.
just shooting the shit. That's literally all we were doing. It's like, hey, there's this new trailer for Kingdom Hearts. Let's talk about it. And there was like no crazy editing. I just turned on my camera after I got home from school and we
Mhm.
just talked about this. And it's so funny to look back on that like 15 years later. And I'm still basically doing the same thing. Production has gotten better. The way I approach the videos has gotten better. And meeting so many more people than I could ever imagine. Like that
Mhm.
blown my mind. But at its core, it's always been about just me being a guy having fun talking about this stuff and then finding such an amazing group of like-minded individuals like yourself. And then that basically segues us to, like I was doing that for so many years as a hobby and I was finding success. It was awesome, a great hobby. COVID happened, and COVID, as you know, shut the entire world down. So everybody was indoors, right? So
Mhm.
this like for gamers, like, oh man, it's like I was made for this. So we're
Yeah.
catching up on games and we're
Yeah.
doing more content creation. I made a video basically talking about my time using the Xbox One X. I was like, yeah, I hadn't been on Xbox for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Here are my impressions. Uploaded that video, thought nothing
Mhm.
of it until it just went viral. And then
Mhm.
I have a lot of people at Xbox talking about it. And that's how I was able to meet people like you and meet like all these crazy people. So it's just like, again, a prime example. You never know who you're going to run into next by just putting yourself out there and talking about these things. And yeah, that's been my journey. And it's just fun every single day, waking up, being able to do this.
Yeah, man, there is nothing cooler than creating something for fun, and then all of a sudden you find out that what you enjoy, other people are enjoying kind of living vicariously through you, watching
Mhm.
your journey, being a part of your journey. And I remember before you and I even met, I remember that Xbox One X video or that
Yeah.
Confessions from a PS4 Gamer, I think
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Yeah. That title, which I was just like, I need something spicy. So it's like, Xbox One X and like Confessions from a PS4 owner or something like
Mhm.
that. And again, I thought nothing of it. I just uploaded that video, all one take, no editing. And my like for people who haven't seen it, this was like deep in the heart of COVID. I'm talking like barbershops were shut down. Your boy was looking scruffy, no haircut, no shave up, no lineup, nothing. And I'm like, let me upload a video. This is the perfect way. And it's like, it's so funny how that video ended up being my most popular. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But again, it goes to show you it's the content of the video
Mhm.
that matters more than anything.
Big time. So what would you say is the right advice to give then for people that are maybe, that young kid who's got stuff they want to talk about or whatnot? It's obviously it's partly a luck game in some ways, but also it's more competitive than ever in terms of getting views. Are you driven by views? Is there advice for that, or is it something different?
So here's the thing. I'm gonna give you the realist answer. There's the PC answer. There's the follow your dreams answer. There's all that stuff which I will get to. But I will say this though. Like, yes, at the end of the day, when you are a content creator, you are going to be motivated by the metrics, the
Mhm.
analytics, the views, the subs, things like that. Because at the end of the day, this is a passion of ours. We pour our passion into this. And it does kind of suck when you think you've put out the best product ever and it doesn't get the response that you think you get for whatever reason. It could be
Mhm.
the algorithm, it could just be a slow period of time in the industry. It could just be like, your video just didn't take off the way you wanted to.
Mhm.
But what I always say is like that stuff is important when it comes to managing your
Mhm.
brand, but that comes well after the fact. That's like one of those things that, it's like waking up in the morning and brushing your teeth. You just have to make it a part of your process.
Mhm.
But the core root of it at the end of the day is you have to have passion for this. Like whatever it is, whether you're, you want to be a streamer and stream video games, whether you want to be a commentator, just like whatever your niche is, you have to want to do this. And my best piece of advice is you got to do it because you love it. There's going
Mhm.
to be a lot of hard times. It's going to be an arduous journey. But if you have the passion for this and you love doing this, it is going to feel like work, but it's going to feel like very rewarding work.
Mhm.
So just never give up on that passion. Like no matter how effort like pointless it may seem at times, you
Mhm.
never know where that next step is going to lead you or who you're going to run into or who's going to give you that opportunity and that chance. A lot of people always say in this life it is about who you know, and that is absolutely true. Like you could be the most talented individual in the world, but if you don't have anybody to discover you, if you will, or whatever, or help you along the journey, you're not going to go anywhere. But I think it becomes more about what you know after that. So you can find somebody who can help you along the way, but they have to see that something in you, that potential. And if you've laid the groundwork when it comes down to this content creation and you're willing to humble yourself and always be better and don't think that just because you do this thing you're on top, trust
Mhm.
me, this journey is going to be so much easier and so much more rewarding for you. And also take the opportunity while you're crafting this content to meet people, to make bread with people. Like you might start out streaming with just like a couple of people,
Mhm.
get to know those people, have fun with those people. Don't think as if like you could take them for granted. Cause remember, that's a person who's taking time out of their day, whatever they're doing, to come kick it with you and have
Mhm.
fun with you. Like just never forget that aspect for it. Like just be humble and stay loyal and keep at it.
That's good advice, man. That's real
Yeah.
good advice.
Yeah.
So you've built your audience, I would guess you would say, on anime, nerd culture,
Mhm.
and gaming.
Yes.
Where do you think you of the three of those things enjoy the most of your free time?
I would definitely say so. Here's the thing: when I started the channel, it was sort of a hybrid between me talking about a lot of anime
Mhm.
and segueing that into anime video games. So I came on the channel talking a lot about Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, and they were releasing a lot of games at the time. So I would do a lot of updates saying like, "Hey, this is the newest Naruto game that's coming out." But for the majority of my time on YouTube, it did veer more into the gaming side of things. I would speak about anime, like every now and then I do an anime review. If there was a big movie that would come out, I would post a review for that as well. But it's primarily been anime. I mean,
Mhm.
video games, which
Okay.
that's just where I gravitate towards. Like, I'm still a really big anime fan, but I wouldn't really classify myself as like an anime only YouTube channel. It's just like my channel is more gaming focused, but it's like a
Mhm.
hodgepodge association of random stuff. So while people will associate my channel for gaming, they'll come in, they'll watch for the Xbox stuff. Every now and then I'll come in there and I'll be like, hey, I just saw the new Demon Slayer movie. Let's talk about it. Or,
Mhm.
hey, here's a random Blu-ray update. Cause I'm a really big proponent of like 4K physical media and
Mhm.
supporting the industry. I'll just come on here and say, hey, here's the like 5, 6 new 4K Blu-rays. And, the views will be very different between the two. But the important thing is like you grow different audiences at the same time. So sure, like a lot of people, they want to stick to their niche, and that's fine if it works for them. But just being able to share other interests and hobbies, other people, you realize like, oh wait, these people aren't as like dogmatic that they only want to hear about Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo stuff. They might want to know like, what did you think about this new movie that's in theaters or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just like a little bit of everything, and I think that's what keeps it interesting. Because one thing that I have noticed just throughout the years of like 15 years of doing this somewhat consistently, at least uploading a video or streaming once a month, is that the second that you get bored of what you're doing and you feel as if you have to force out content for the algorithm, that's where the death of innovation begins. Which is
Mhm.
why it's very important that you take a step back and you analyze
Mhm.
some things. Whether that means you have a different approach to your content of video, or you just start experimenting and talking about different things because you love it. Because the last thing you want is to feel as if you have to force out stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's not fun. If you feel like, okay, I got to come on here and speak about this because people need to hear about it. Like,
Mhm.
people need to hear about it. Do you want to do that, or are you just doing that because you think you have to? So that's
Mm.
why I think what saved me over the past 15 years is just only speaking about stuff if I want to or if I'm interested in it.
Gotcha. That makes good sense, man. Is YouTube your career, your job?
No, YouTube is not. It's always been a hobby for me. Throughout the past 15 years, I've always considered like, oh, if I ever dived into YouTube full time,
Mhm.
I think I could make something out of it. And I've noticed like the times when I buckle down and I
Mhm.
just like go consistent with the content, like I see the results. But YouTube, I think why I love it so much is that it's never become a job where I feel like I have to wake up and I have to do something. Like, so for me, it's always like, okay, every single week, I know I have to do a stream,
Mhm.
right? And if I'm creative enough, I know I'll upload a video.
Mhm.
So that's what's really kept me sane, So it's not my day to day job, but I do give it as much effort, in some cases more than I would a job, because you know how it is. It's not as simple as just us coming on here and talking about stuff. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff between
Mhm.
research, between honing your craft, creating your environment, like the small little things that we do. Like it's so funny because back in the day it wasn't really like that. It used to just be you record in whatever environment or you have a green screen, and now it's like, okay, let's make our backgrounds look like a part of the experience. As you see
Mhm.
going on, you have all your collectibles there and you
Yeah.
have them lit by the light. And, you have that beautiful, 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 beautiful controller, which I've just been staring at
That's
throughout
right.
this entire. Ooh, baby,
That's
that is so pretty.
it's so good. Mm.
Yes, and it's like all those little things, like content creators, there's so much more that goes into it that a lot of people don't know about.
Mhm.
That when they see the final product, they think that, oh, this stuff happens overnight. No, there's so much to it, which is why, even though YouTube's not a career for me, I still give it as much effort as that. But yeah, no, it's always just been a part-time thing for me. And you never know where the future will go. That's what I always say, like, keep your options open.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we've seen, or fans of Neo have seen you make your way into other podcasts. I'm thinking about Podcast Unlocked. I've seen you really gain a voice in gaming in a really fun and cool way. We are fresh off of uh, the showcases that took place this summer, and it's really frustrating because I still want to call them E3, right?
Yeah,
Like I still want to say
I
that.
the not E3 season, as we're all
Yeah,
dubbing it.
yeah.
Yep.
So, we're fresh off those showcases. Where do you find yourself? How you feeling? Right? Like we just saw all these big games. Sometimes we're excited, sometimes disappointed. Where are you at?
Yeah, so when it comes to a lot of these showcases, my mantra, as it's been for the past couple of years, especially post COVID, is that, just given the state of game development and how things were ruptured for the past couple of years, you should always go into these showcases with very low expectations, because there's a
Mhm,
lot of stuff. Like, if there's a lot of stuff that's affected our day-to-day lives, at the micro and the macro level, there's a lot of stuff happening with game development with thousands of people working on this. So I always say, if you go into these showcases and there's a couple of really good, solid announcements, then it's a
mhm,
solid win. But I will say this year, even though there were a couple of misfires here and there with some showcases, it was really solid. Like, the
mhm,
future of gaming, I think, since this generation has started, has never been brighter. We're
mhm.
finally seeing a lot of the stuff that we maybe would have wanted to see last year and back in 2021. We're seeing that on full display. And I think that for the most part, everybody put on a solid show. Like, there's a lot of stuff coming out that I want to see. Ironically, from Ubisoft, there's a good couple of games
Right?
that like right there I already know, like Prince of Persia, that's going to be a
Mhm,
day one. That new Star Wars game from the Division guys, that's going to
mhm,
be a day one. And then looking over to the Summer Games Fest, there's good stuff there. The Xbox showcase, it did, like, their main goal was to sell Starfield and get people excited for that. Great. And then they showed little bits and snippets of other stuff too. So I'm feeling really optimistic. I mean, if this year wasn't bad enough for gamers in the sense that there's more stuff to play,
mhm.
2024 is going to be even more insane. But I
Oh, yeah.
welcome it. I welcome the madness.
It's so funny because I feel like the start of this generation was really neutered in a way, thanks to
Mm,
COVID,
mm,
and I think just development timelines in general. Because we launched the Xbox Series S and X, great console
mm.
hardware, really good features that I didn't expect to love. Like, I wasn't thinking quick resume or
Oh,
smart
my man. I
delivery.
was about to mention that quick resume is so dope. Like, people,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, sure, it's multitasking for a console. Like,
Hmm.
computers have had that, phones have had that, but it's just so sick where it's like, you know what? I don't want to worry about having to get to a save point, or I just want to swap between games. Like,
Hmm.
little tiny things like that, an
Yeah.
FPS boost. Like, yeah, I love this. I love it.
Yeah, it all that stuff that I didn't think mattered,
Mm-hmm.
but no big games at launch. And then
Mm,
2021, I think good year for Xbox,
mm-hmm.
great year for PlayStation. 2022, Game Pass delivered, but first party Xbox did not.
Mm,
First party Sony crushed it. 2023, despite Redfall, Xbox has had a pretty good slew of releases, which people overlook right now. And I'm pointing to like Age of Empires, Hi-Fi Rush, Ghostwire
mm-hmm.
Tokyo, Minecraft Legends, like they're all niche, right? So they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
get mainstream, but like as a publisher, they've done well. But then they show Starfield and they show what they've
Mm,
got in 2024. Uh, I like the new direction Avowed is taking.
mm.
It was jarring to go for talking about Avowed to go
Yeah.
from like what I thought was going to be this hyper realistic version of a visual effect to see this like tonal change, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice distinguishing mark from, say, Fable and Elder Scrolls. And I think I like it now, especially seeing it in 4K.
Yeah.
I kind of like it now.
The thing about Avowed, I was exactly the same way. When I saw that footage, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not gonna cap about it. I was like, "Oh, this is looking very rough."
Hmm.
But if you watch the 4K YouTube version and not the Twitch one, it does hold up a lot better. And what's always saving me at the end of the day, and why I really don't worry about it anymore, like on the first day I was worried, but then after that I'm just like, whatever. It's because it's coming from Obsidian. Like,
Hmm.
these guys have never let me down,
Yeah.
whether it's a small scale passion project, whether it's Outer Worlds. Like, I mean, like, my first introduction to Obsidian was Fallout New Vegas, and that's one of my all time favorite games. I've played that like 3 times. And I'm just like, am I really going to doubt them like that? Especially with like how much of a surprise Pentiment was, their
Hmm.
writing, and then they're doing Avowed, and they're just saying all the right things about it. Like, I don't know if you've probably already seen this, but when they said that, yeah, Avowed is more going to be comparable to Outer Worlds in scale and scope, I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
That no, right with you. And especially
Yeah.
like next to the conversation about games taking longer to make. Like
Mhm.
AAA games having a 5-year dev cycle now versus 2 versus 3.
Mhm.
Finding out that a game's scope is reduced a bit, I like that because it means I'll get to play it sooner and we're not constantly asking questions. I liked
Mm.
the idea that it's an outer world size. I didn't need a Skyrim, right?
Mm-mm.
Like you don't need a Skyrim every 2-3 years. You don't need a Witcher 3 every 2-3 years. Like once a decade per franchise I think is okay because they don't exist exclusively to each other. So like Starfield's going to hold over a lot of people. You
Mhm.
know, Cyberpunk's going to hold over a lot of people. Smaller experiences can be helpful. Like those 10-year games, they're different beasts, I think.
Absolutely. And also you have to look at the optics. Shout out to the optics. The Xbox brand, it's kind of becoming Western RPG heaven if they line up all their ducks and they nail everything. Trying to launch a game like Starfield, and imagine if Avowed was on that scale too. Like, sure, they're
Mhm.
very different. Like, one's space, one's more fantasy based, but it's like it's still like the same thing. Oh my god, I'm going to spend hundreds of hours in Starfield, and then a year later, hundreds of hours in Avowed. So the fact that you could have Starfield be sort of your not an ongoing game in that sense, but a game where you could just lose yourself. And then you could have Avowed, which is more of a scaled back experience, focused a lot more on the story and the quests.
Mhm.
And if they want to do expansions, they can. I'm down for that. And
Mhm.
again, it goes back to what you were talking about the dev cycle. Sean Layden talked about this a few years
Mhm.
ago. In addition to Matt Booty as well, he recently came out and spoke about how, like, yeah, the standard cycle is 5 years minimum. In some
Mhm.
cases, it could take 6, 7, and then in the case of Rocksteady, it could take a whole like 2 generations to put out a game. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it had to be multiplayer. You know what? Suicide Squad hurts me. It
Yeah,
hurts me.
it just it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, out of sight, out of mind. We'll see
Mhm.
what you do next year. But yeah, I and this is one of the things that excites me about the prospects of Game Pass if everything works out.
Mhm.
The idea that we can have these smaller scale passion projects. Like recently, People Can Fly, the developers from like Outriders, and they also
Mhm.
did Gears Judgment. They're working on a project with Microsoft. They said the budget is more, and this is so weird to say, but a more modest $30 to $50 million.
Yeah,
Nothing crazy,
just a
Luke.
little bit. Just a
It's
little
a
bit.
little bit. Um, but what does that mean in terms of development? Like, is that going to take 5 years? I'm not so sure, but it seems like
Mhm.
it'll be a smaller scale project. And I think in order for the games industry to thrive, we need to get back to that point where we have these single, double, triple A games. Because now what it seems like is every single double A game that came out wants to be a triple A, and there's no problem with that. I'm fine with
Mhm.
that. But the gap continues to widen where
Mhm.
we just have either indie or triple A. But where's like the middle of the road stuff?
Mhm.
That is what I think that we really need to like start having this conversation on when it comes to game development before this proverbial bubble burst on us. And it's just
Mhm.
everything is, well, same, formulaic. And every now and then you might get a triple A game on the scale of like Tears of the Kingdom or Starfield that does things
Right.
interesting. Like I said this on my recent video. Um, One of the reasons why I'm very excited about Starfield is that, I love AAA game development. I love a lot of AAA games, but a lot of them are developed with the mold that, okay, you expect this. This is the type of game. This is what it's going to be. And that's fine. That's 99% of people. But what
Mhm.
about that 1% of people that's like, I want to do something different. I want to push
Mhm.
the boundaries. That's where Zelda came in. And that's where Bethesda is going to exceed with Starfield. And I think we need to start taking that basis, that 1%, and start building those double A games again.
I miss the double A games. That was one of my favorite things about Blockbuster, about the 360
Mm,
era, about GameStop
yep.
long ago, right? It's like walking and be like, I've never heard of Darksiders. What's Darksiders?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that introduced me to so much. And I'm a huge champion for those double A games. I live for them. I swim in sevens is what I tell my
Hmm.
community. I'm the guy that will find the fun in those smaller titles. And I really do hope that Game Pass continues to be a mechanism for those games to exist,
Mm.
especially out of like first party. Like Hi-Fi Rush is not indie, but it's not triple A either, and it does exist in that space.
Hmm.
I love that. I like that.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? And I made an argument in 2022 that Game Pass and Xbox in general was a quantity, not quality publisher at the time because they had no
Mm.
major first party releases, but Game Pass was still delivering. And I think there's something to be said for that at times, but I'm really glad to see also Xbox kind of coming into their own as Starfield gets ready for launch, as we look to Hellblade 2, and Fable looks to be coming along quite well. I'm excited both, for both.
Yes. Absolutely, bro. And again, it goes back to what they envision their master plan and why they've been acquiring all these studios. The whole point of Game Pass is to have consistent releases. Like I think their main goal was they wanted to launch like four
Mhm.
tentpole titles for every year, so one
Mhm.
for each quarter, which is feasible when you have 30 plus studios.
Mhm.
But then in between you can drop things like a Hi-Fi Rush, and then whatever people can fly are working on, or just like a random passion project here or there, like those smaller things. And once all of this stuff, once the ducks are in a row, and I
Mhm.
think 2024 is going to be the first year we see that. Like next year, if they can launch Fable, Avowed, if they can launch like all those games, it's going to be like, whoa, this is the future. This is a
Mhm.
sign of things to come. Regardless of whether ABK closes, you can expect this kind of quality. And that is exciting for the Xbox brand. Extremely exciting.
Agreed. It's like we're seeing those acquisitions of old finally start to pay off. You see In Exile's Clockwork Revolution. I mean, Obsidian's Avowed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I remember being bullish on like why did they get Bethesda? Like what was it about that? And turns out like here I am. I'm loving Ghostwire Tokyo. I really enjoyed that game. Obviously, I love all the Doom titles. I'm looking forward to Starfield in a way I wasn't expecting to. If I go back to my own voice a year ago,
Yeah.
Starfield, whatever. Now I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, yep, I'm
Yep.
ready for it. I'm here for
Yeah.
it. I'm seeing those dividends pay off, and that's what I worry about when I look at Sony at the moment, because I love those third person narrative games. Like, give
Mm-hmm.
me a Spider-Man, give me a God of War. I love that. And then seeing them kind of pivot in the Jim Ryan era to kind of move into the live services, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I liked what you all were doing. Don't change. And Xbox is kind of shifting. It's like they're almost ready to flip 5 years from now. I
Yeah.
hope that's not the case, because Xbox has done a good job with their live service. They take care of Grounded, Sea of Thieves quite well. Um, but I do worry about that flip. I don't want to lose my third person narrative games.
Yeah, so I think obviously that's PlayStation's biggest strength, and that's where the majority of people are going to show up. They've built a brand to the point where PlayStation exclusives can now funny enough rival Nintendo games when it comes to
Mhm.
some sales.
Yep.
Um which is what they want. But at the same time, you kind of have to look at it like, what's the budget going into those games? It doesn't go down, it always goes up. And we're looking at like movie tier budgets for video games. 200 plus million is like the starting point, and then when you
Mhm.
add in marketing, and it only goes up from there. So it falls on all those games to be successful. But I think that's where the games as a service stuff comes in, because when you can get that back end revenue, that reoccurring revenue, and the initial investment is not as high, that can help sustain them, which is why they said proudly, like, we have 10 live service games in development. Are all those 10 live service games going to hit? Absolutely not. I assume a good majority of them are going to flop. But if that one game is their Fortnite or their GTA Online, that can set them up for an entire generation and then some. And my hope and my prayer, and, it is one thing, you have to take what these executives say with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
Everybody does it, whether it's Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. Um, Jim Ryan, he did come out and he said, like, we have like 25 plus games in development of various scales,
Mhm.
sizes, and scopes. My goal is that, we're still going to get the AAA narratives, of course. We'll get these games as service stuff, but then let's get those smaller passion projects. Let's
Mhm.
bring back the Japanese support. Let's bring back those games like, one of the reasons why I loved the PS4 era so much is that they made it exciting to be a
Mhm.
PlayStation fan. They made it a sign of pride. Like when they would have PlayStation Experience, those type of events, and you would go there, and it was just like, you can tell, like, hey, we are gamers. Like,
Mhm.
we're suits. We run this thing. We want your
Mhm.
money, but we're also gamers, and we're going to show it. We're going to show that passion, and we don't see that anymore with PlayStation now, which is
Mhm.
very disappointing. We're still seeing that with Xbox, which is cool.
Mhm.
But go back to giving us those games, and that's my only hope. And I think if they are smart, they will see that not every game has to be on the level of a God of War or a Spider-Man. You can have those games in between, like a Medieval,
Mhm.
like a Concrete Genie. And, it does fall on the consumers as well. I don't want to be that guy and say that Sony needs to bring back these games if they're not selling. It does fall on the consumers that if there's a really interesting game, do your due diligence, look
Mhm.
it up, support it. And, you, Luke, you're really great at that. Like, you're highlighting games that, most people, they might not care about because it's not the standard norm. But it's like, hey, you might find some fun in this if you like that game. Like, that's
Yep.
why community is so imperative when it comes to gaming, because there's way more stuff to play now between Game Pass, between PlayStation Plus, Steam,
Mhm.
Nintendo. There's way more stuff to play. Um, but you want to make sure that you're not just focused too much on one over the other, because you might be missing out on one of your favorite games.
Totally agree, man. I during that PS4, the beginning of the PS4 Xbox One era, I switched from being Xbox 360 primary to PlayStation 4
Mm,
during that transition, and I was treated to things like Resogun,
mm-hmm.
Infamous. They did a lot of collections, which was cool.
Yeah.
They were doing back compat in a unique way during PS3, but like I felt like PlayStation valued my dollar. It was cheaper, my games
Mm-hmm.
traveled further. I think right now Xbox is taking my dollar further
Yeah.
than PlayStation is, and that's not an up or down thing. But for me as a consumer, I like when these bigger companies maybe they get on their back foot and they've got a counterpunch and they counterpunch hard because I
Mm.
get the best of it, right? Like the losing Xbox brought me games with gold, brought me Game Pass, brought me smart delivery, the One S, One X. It brought me so much, and when they compete and they're healthily competing, I feel like we get more out of it. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I always say hold these companies accountable. Hold them because like everybody we're all rooting for an underdog and right now Xbox is that underdog, which is weird cuz it's $1 trillion corporation, but you know, they are the underdog in gaming. They're trying to position themselves as that. But it's very important that you make sure you keep them held accountable because as soon as you know you see we're having fun and everything when they start getting to the top and they see those sales numbers they can start to pull back on how they approach things. We saw that with the latter parts of the 360 generation leading into the Xbox One. Like the first half of the 360 generation was outside of Red Ring of Death was a really awesome generation. Games like Gears of War, Halo 3, and then you had all the partnerships that they had going on with Mass Effect, and then you had random stuff they were just throwing at the wall, like here's Lost Odyssey, like here's this, here's that, Viva Pinata for you, like great stuff. One
Mhm.
versus 100, which you know I still got a bone to pick. They haven't brought that
Why?
back yet.
Why not? Everybody wants it.
My man, Luke is right there with me. I love it. But then the latter part of that generation, it's like, nah. And then we all know what happened with the Xbox One debacle. But
Mhm,
yeah, always hold them accountable. And when they have to compete for your dollar,
mhm,
that's when they start doing crazy value propositions.
mhm,
I don't know about you, but I get really nostalgic at time when it comes to games media because we've been covering this for so many years now.
mhm,
Every now and then I go back and I like to watch those old E3 press conferences.
mhm,
And like recently I was just like, yeah, I want to go back and I want to watch the E3 press conference of 2011 for PlayStation. And man, here's the thing. This is something I got to say to all gamers. If we think showcases now are bad, go back in time and see how they used to do those things. A lot of those hour and a half showcases, you could trim a good 70% of it because it was just a
Mhm,
lot of them talking about sales and meteoric growth and all these things that we don't care about. I remember I was watching this and it took close to 20 minutes for us to get like a string of gameplay. And
mhm,
I was like, wow, we really got it good now. If Phil Spencer just comes on here and talks for 2 seconds and that's it.
mhm,
But the funny thing is, the reason why I brought up the whole value proposition is I remember back in like 2011 when they were really trying to push 3D, they had this bundle where you could get like a PlayStation branded 3D TV, glasses, HDMI cable, Resistance 3, and just like a whole bunch of accessories and all that stuff for like, I think it was $400, $500. And just
mhm.
at the time, that's insane
Right.
value.
Yeah.
Holy. And then again, the reason why they were doing that is because, you know, they were behind Xbox. Sure, they were getting up there now with the PS3 Slim, but they had to do those things. So yeah, I say all this to say be critical of your companies because at the end of the day, what we have, like we like to be buddy buddy with them,
Mhm.
but it's purely transactional. It's always going to be transactional. And if they're not serving you, then you got to say something.
Yep. Fully agree, man. Fully agree. As we start to close out here, is there anything that you want to point people towards in the showcases that they might have missed, or things that you're kind of hanging your hat on? For me, for all the showcases, like not to be forgotten is the Metal Gear collection, which is coming back, so everybody can play Metal Gear. I'm really excited about that. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you that you're looking forward to that maybe we haven't mentioned?
Oh man, I mean, that's the thing nowadays. Just with the circles that we run in, I feel like all of us do a really good job at pointing out a lot of those games. Like, sure, we've got the big stuff. Like, yeah, did you guys ever hear about this game Starfield?
Hmm.
But yeah, everyone is really good about that. But there are two games in particular that I saw at the Xbox showcase that, of course, everybody's talking about it, but I thought they were really cool. Towerborn
Hmm.
and also I think it's called what was it 33
33
Immortals.
Immortals. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So both of those games are looking like a lot of fun. Towerborn is coming from the guys who worked on the Banner Saga, and
Mhm.
then 33 Immortals is kind of has like this Hades aesthetic vibe, but with 33 people. I don't know how they're gonna manage 33 players all
Yeah.
at once, but if they can nail it, it sounds like a lot of fun. Just get everybody in a Discord and just go for it. But yeah, those are two games that I'm gonna be watching very, very closely, and I can't wait to see what they do with them.
Very cool, man. I'm looking forward to Sonic Superstars because that
Mm,
surprised me, and
yeah.
I really liked Frontiers. And the games don't talk to me. I am not an Atlas JRPG person, but
Hmm.
seeing them build a relationship with Sega,
Hmm.
and it really come into fruition this year, uh, really makes me happy because I
Yes.
feel like that's a genre. And I'm look over your right shoulder, right? Like all types of Persona love there. Seeing that come to a new community is cool. I'm
Yeah.
there for that. So,
Dude, absolutely. And it's one of those things, going back to what we were saying about being critical, none of this stuff would have happened unless, we were out there saying, "Hey, we want to play these games, give Xbox fans the opportunity to support them." And, they threw us a bone. It all started with it's the same publisher, it's under Sega, but it all started when they brought the Yakuza games to Game Pass. They were like, "All right, we'll bring you two games. Shut up." And then people
mm-hmm,
downloaded it and they're like, "Okay." And then they brought the rest of it, and they're
mm-hmm,
bringing all the new games. And just for them to come on there and reveal the next game from the people who worked on Persona, like, that's huge. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, last year it was them announcing ports of 3, 4, and 5, which
mm-hmm,
cool, that's great. But this year it's like, okay, we're announcing a brand new Persona 5 game. We're announcing a remake of Persona 3. And you know what? One more thing. Here's a brand new game from the creators of Persona
mm-hmm,
in just a year's time. Sure, they're multi-plat, but that does so much good for the brand. And if people support it, we can start seeing more of those games come out. And that's what makes me excited. Like being able to spread the gospel of
mm-hmm,
Persona and JRPG greatness to everybody
mm-hmm.
everywhere. Yes.
Well, as we close out, I do want to say thank anybody for listening. If you're a supporter of XEP over on Patreon, thank you guys so much. If you're finding this on YouTube after the fact or later on, or you're from Neo's channel, thank you guys for watching. Neo, let people know where they can find you, what to look forward to, and what you got in the cooker.
Yeah, of course. So, if you guys want to find me on any type of outlets, my handle is going to be NeoGameSpark. As far as social media is concerned, I frolic the most on Twitter. That's where you guys can get my spicy to lukewarm takes. Nothing as crazy as Luke over here, and I'm surprised I made it 40 minutes into this segment without bringing up some of your takes. So, that's
Yeah,
progress
which
on my
takes
end.
are you mad about? Which
Hey,
ones?
listen. You know what? We want to end this on a happy
I
note and
just
a
want to
high note.
know.
Let's get the let's. You know what? If you ever bring me back for like an after show where we can
Okay.
get raunchy or something, we'll talk about that, my
Okay.
brother.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys can find me on twitter.com/NeoGameSpark. Of course, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/NeoGameSpark. We stream every Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Ask Neo Show, which is just a free flow Q&A where we just have fun on there. And then every now and then I do work on videos if there's something interesting that's happening in the pipeline, but you can find me there. And before I go, I do want to give a shout out to my homie Luke from the Xbox Expansion Pass, because my man right here is doing God's work. He's doing consistent work. He is one of the greats in the community, like getting interviews with people, setting that stuff up.
Thanks.
And I always say this: support your favorite content creators, whether it's monetarily, whether you're subscribing to them on Patreon or YouTube, even if it's a simple like, commenting it, sharing the video out. That does wonders. You guys have no good idea. And all this stuff is free. All this stuff is free. And I just love to see fellow creators in the space keep on winning. When I see him pull up with this interview saying, "Hey, you guys know that game that was just announced today? Yeah, I got the developer on there coming next week." I'm just like, my fucking man, Luke, let's go, bro. That stuff is what it's all about. It is not a competition. It has never been a competition, because when one person wins, it motivates all of us to keep upping our craft, and then we all win. There's always going to be room at the table. So let's have fun together.
Big time, man. Well said. Rising tides lift all boats, and I'm
Yes,
right
sir.
with you.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's going to do it for us, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.